Two guys have Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackie and Judd on SKOR North and SKORNorth.com.
And welcome into Mackie and Judd on this Thursday before the new year without Phil. Phil off today, taking a well-deserved breather. I believe he told us he was going to see Kenny G last night.
I got some photos and videos from a late-night Macadac last night with Kenny G playing right in front of him and the missus.
Oh, my God. That's very frightening. So anyway, the show today, Mackie and Judd, is Judd. It's Declan. And we're joined by our scoop master, Darren Doogie Wilson, Channel 5 Eyewitness News anchor extraordinaire of late as well. Dukes, welcome back. We certainly had what I would consider to be a juicy and somewhat reckless speculation Tuesday, and this is officially reckless speculation Thursday. So we got to try to top it now. We got to try to top this, and we're going to start with the Vikings. What can you tell us about the status, starting with Garrett Bradbury, who I saw did not practice again yesterday? And I think that the note that you sent me, and I forget how much we talked about this publicly, but you sent me a note a couple weeks ago to check on the status of Bradbury because it sounded like it was far worse than what the Vikings were putting out there or saying. I think you have been, or your sources have been proven to be absolutely correct.
Yes. Good morning, Judd. Hello, Declan. Happy Reckless Speculation Thursday. Yeah, it was a couple weeks ago, Judd. I asked you to check on something that was brought to my attention to check on. You know, you and I swap messages of this kind all the time. And it was to the effect of, hey, check on the possibility that Garrett Bradbury will not be back this year. Now, 2 days ago, I told you I was not in a position to say that he won't play against Green Bay. Like when we spoke at this point now 9 days ago, leading into the Giants game, there was a lot of question marks, right? Like I tried to allude to the idea that Bradbury playing against the Giants probably wasn't going to be in play. I wasn't in that position 2 days ago, but now that we know that he was a DNP in practice on Wednesday, it certainly is trending in that direction, that Austin Schlottmann would start yet again a fourth consecutive game at center. I'm not in a position to say that Bradbury is done entirely for the year. I still need to gather more information on that front. I've had a number of his teammates tell me, really, really tough guy. And so, you know, if it's a pain threshold thing, you know, continuing to get treatment, you know, there might be a way for him to get back in there at some point. So I'm not ready to sit here and tell you, like, Bradbury is done. Hey, let's look forward to March when he's an unrestricted free agent. Will the Vikings re-sign him? No, I'm not in that position this morning to say that. But, yeah, I mean, cause for concern. When they were in full pads on Wednesday, they went full pads. You know, they absolutely wanted him out there, trust me, and he wasn't able to get out there. So that just tells you how much pain that he's been dealing with. So we'll continue to monitor that situation. But when you're not, you know, out there on Wednesday in full pads. Now, if he's able to be limited today, maybe that would skew some things in the direction of having a possibility, maybe a questionable type designation for Sunday. But the fact he wasn't out there on Wednesday when they were in full pads, definitely a cause for concern.
Feeling like the next time that we might see him, Dukes, might be the playoffs. Like with the way, with what you heard, with I guess the subsequent car accident in which he wasn't hurt, but it did aggravate the problem, I think, after the Colts game. In putting the pieces together, this feels like, and it's probably the smart play, this feels like they're trying to be cautious because if nothing else, they would definitely like him back for a playoff game, which almost certainly, barring a miracle, is going to be a first round game with no bye, because we're now at a point where only the top seed gets a bye.
Yeah, I mean, I think Philadelphia wins this weekend. They beat New Orleans at home. So Philadelphia secures that 1 seed. But I suppose as we sit here right now, that 1 seed is still out there. But yeah, I mean, I think the Eagles will be the one. So we're looking at the Vikings playing either Saturday, January 14th, Sunday, January 15th, or there is one playoff game Monday night, January 16th.
Here we go.
So the Vikings will play one of those 3 days in all likelihood. Yeah, it's hard for me to see Bradbury out there on January 8th on that crap surface in Chicago at Soldier Field. By the way, Judd, like if I had told you on August 30th or September 7th that we would be sitting here on December 29th talking about the significance of losing Garrett Bradbury. Like you would have laughed at me, right? You would have been like, "What?
I would have
What
howled.
the heck are you talking about?"
Yes.
But he's been really, really good. He has positioned himself to hit a nice little payday come March.
Dukes, I know we're not Packers scoops daily, but I did see the Vikings hex continuing on opposing quarterbacks because Aaron Rodgers, I believe, did not practice with a knee injury for the Packers on Wednesday. Now, I would imagine with their season on the line, come hell and high water, 12 will probably be out there for Green Bay. But it is kind of amazing watching all these Vikings teams play either backup QBs or throwing these weird hexes on starting quarterbacks. But I have to imagine from what Rob Domofsky and other people are saying who are plugged into the Packers, it will still be probably Aaron Rodgers going under center for the Packers on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, Declan, I would be shocked, right? I mean, the fact that he's overcome the thumb issue, some other ailments, right? Like Aaron Rodgers is going to play on Sunday. So, yeah, I mean, I fully expect the Vikings, put it this way, the Vikings, I was in the locker room for a bit on Wednesday. Trust me, the Vikings are fully expecting to see Aaron Rodgers. So, yeah, I think Aaron will be out there. The Packers remain, 3.5-point favorites as of this morning. So certainly the odds makers are anticipating Aaron Rodgers playing on Sunday.
The intriguing one from the Packers injury report standpoint, guys, is this one: Christian Watson hip DNP practice on Wednesday. And that's intriguing because while he did drop the first pass of the season from his quarterback on what would have been a certain touchdown and really might have changed the fortunes of this entire year for the Vikings, if he can't go, he's improved a lot and he has played well. That's a speedster that you don't have to be concerned about. So I would say that could be a crucial miss if he can't play, because that would make life on the secondary. It wouldn't make it simple, but it would definitely make it easier than it is if a full strength Christian Watson is playing.
Yes, my friends in Fargo tell me a lot of good things about him from his time at North Dakota State. You're right. He has gotten significantly better as the year has gone on. I wonder about Bakhtiari. Is there a chance the Packers get their left tackle back on Sunday? We know Gary is out for the year. That's a significant injury for the Packers. Certainly Stokes as well at cornerback. So, I mean, they've had to deal with the injury bug like many teams. I mean, that's an understated storyline with the Vikings this year, Judd, how durable they have been. Every team inevitably is going to suffer an injury or two, right? The Vikings miss Garrett Bradbury right now. They missed Christian Darrisaw for multiple games.
Yep.
They missed Dalvin Tomlinson for multiple games. They lost a game in Detroit. Harrison Smith didn't play, right? So you are going to lose guys. But comparatively speaking, pretty much across the league, the Vikings have been as durable as just about any team.
Which brings us to probably the most underappreciated Viking storyline, not just in town here. I think it might be appreciated here, but nationally it's not at all. And that's the quarterback. Kirk Cousins, I believe at this point in time, has been hit more than any other quarterback in the league. This is a year, again, and this happens all the time, where you've had a ton of starting quarterbacks miss time for various ailments, injury, blah, blah, blah. I really think the one thing that Kirk doesn't get recognized nationally enough for is, if I'm not mistaken, he's missed like a grand total of 1 snap in Washington because he had to, because he went down and was, I think, basically had the wind knocked out of him. But the point being is, in this era, it's a really remarkable story that Kirk Cousins does not miss time. And that's one thing that goes back as well. So that this is not a 2022 thing, Dukes. This is a career-long thing of this guy, and he's not a small, frail guy, but he's certainly not huge, that he does not miss time, and he takes a absolute pounding. I think that's super impressive.
I think it's very impressive. I think back to the Washington game, that pass to Justin Jefferson, was it Jonathan Allen, or maybe it was Payne? It was one of those really good Washington interior defensive linemen, just coming right up the gut, right? Slamming him to the turf, yet he stays strong. He delivers the pass, gives Jefferson a chance to make a play. I believe the Vikings were down 10 at that moment. So that was a key play, one of their many double-digit comebacks this year. We can cite other examples as well. The game in London, the deep pass to Jefferson, I believe Cousins took a vicious hit right in that moment. So, yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, I'll tell you this much, Judd, unprompted, talking with Eric Kendricks in the locker room on Wednesday, Chris Thomason of the Pioneer Press came up. It looked like Chris was working on, the story about Cousins, 8 fourth quarter comebacks, tying an NFL record. Matthew Stafford, 2016, also had 8. We can debate whether that's a quarterback stat or not, but Thomason was asking guys, so he hopped in. That's how it works in the locker room. It's not like you really get all these one-on-one exclusive type interviews. Guys, other reporters can hop in whenever they want. So, fine, no problem. Chris hops in, and he threw Eric a question about the 8 fourth quarter comebacks. And so it was a question where, you're expecting Eric to say, yeah, he's made this throw, that throw. We value his leadership. Eric turned the corner with what you just said, that nationally, even locally to some extent, he doesn't get the credit he deserves for being as tough as he is. So that's the way that Eric Kendricks, a teammate, a captain, chose to answer that question about Cousins.
Dukes, I saw your colleague Alec Osmus had some video of Irv Smith returning to the practice field yesterday for the Vikings after going on IR. Now he's cleared to practice. I believe he has not been cleared for game duty yet, but he is cleared for practice. I've kind of personally moved off of the fact of the idea of Irv Smith being a big downfield threat or a big threat in this offense for the Vikings. But I will say, I feel a lot better about a possibility of TJ Hockenson and Irv Smith in a wild card round offense than I do with TJ Hockenson and Johnny Munt.
Yeah, and we saw, now maybe you have the numbers, one of you two more than I do, but I feel like against the Giants, we saw Munt and Hockenson in the game together more than we've seen the previous few weeks. I don't know if it was 9 snaps, 12 snaps.
I think you're right.
Whatever it was, but the two tight end set, we saw that more against the Giants than pretty much we've seen at any point the entire year. Now, Declan, I'm with you, right? I mean, Irv Smith has never lived up to the second round draft pick type expectations. He's going to be elsewhere next year, right? Like, we can foresee that. The Vikings are not re-signing him. He's an unrestricted free agent. He'll be elsewhere. But I'm with you, right? Like, give me that possibility. Irv with TJ compared to Johnny with TJ. Kevin O'Connell certainly has thought about that. He brought that up Wednesday during his media session. So, yeah, it's trending in that direction. I think it's more likely it's the weekend of January 14th. Certainly not this weekend or that crap turf in Chicago the following week. By the way, do we even know yet? I hate this. Do we even know yet if that game is on Saturday, January 7th or Sunday, January 8th? That Bears game?
I thought it was locked in. Let me see.
No, it's TBD. Come on, NFL. Like, what are we doing?
It's the last week,
man. Why are we waiting? I know.
TV, they don't care about you.
We won't know until, Monday or Sunday night. I imagine it's Sunday the 8th, not Saturday the 7th, but I don't even know how many games they're flexing to Saturday the 7th. But just in terms of trying to plan some stuff out that weekend, boys playing in some youth basketball tournaments. It's just
Roger Goodell don't care about your kids.
Yeah, I know. This is very selfish of me to say, but just from a planning standpoint, just very, very frustrating that we don't know when that game will be in Chicago, whether it will be Saturday the 7th or Sunday the 8th. But yeah, I mean, you're not going to put Irv out there with the bum knee on that turf. Like, I can't imagine. Maybe for a few snaps, something like that, but nothing significant. But I think it's more likely if, right? I mean, it's a 21-day window, so they don't have to do anything for a handful of days, right? But if it happens, we're looking more at, that first wild card weekend.
To be clear, according to the schedule, it is a Sunday. It's locked in on Sunday with no time yet. So it's a Sunday.
But they are flexing. Correct me if I'm wrong on this, because our photojournalist is trying to book some travel, trying to figure out whether he should go in Friday night or Saturday night. Now, it's helpful that there are flights on the hour.
Yeah,
right.
I'd go in Friday and party on.
Well, and he might do that. Yeah,
on
he was
Saturday.
thinking about bringing his wife, and so
I'd go in on Friday. Just tell him, just go in on Friday. Cut me down, baby.
But yeah, we were under the impression that the NFL is moving some games to Saturday the 7th. Maybe it's worth a quick Google. Maybe I'm talking out of turn, but that some games are moving to the 7th, just like the weekend of December 17th. For a while, it was TBD, right? Now, there were only 5 games that were in play to be moved to Saturday, so 3 of the 5 got moved. The Vikings-Colts game was one of those 3 that got moved. So some people might have looked at the schedule and said, okay, the Vikings were supposed to play on Sunday, December 18th. Well, no, they ended up playing on Saturday, December 17th. So I know the NFL is planning, at least I believe, Declan, again, maybe you can look it up quickly, but that there are going to be some games on Saturday, January 7th, and we won't know those games until either late Sunday night or sometime Monday.
I'm going to guess here that Cam Dantzler, who is, I saw coming back from the ankle problem, which to your point on Tuesday, he's never looked
I don't know why they activated him for that Detroit game. I know from a personnel standpoint, they didn't really fully know at that moment what they had in Duke Shelley. I mean, Duke's been great. Colts game, Giants game. But heading into that Lions game, the weekend of December 11th, there were still some question marks about Duke Shelley. It felt like they rushed that situation. Like, I don't think Cam was ever ready to play on December 11th.
And Cam's back at practice now, but I'm going to guess that at least for the game against the Packers, that Duke has won that job and that Dantzler is going to back him up. I saw that O'Connell was asked about it yesterday and skirted the question a little bit. But I got to think right now that with the way that Duke is playing, that Dantzler is going to get some more time, probably be active for the game, but probably not start for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, number 20, Duke Shelley, has been phenomenal. Now, I spoke with Duke in the locker room on Wednesday, and yeah, I mean, he's planning as if he's going to start on Sunday, but he said, hey, I won't find out officially until later in the week. But yeah, I mean, we could see a situation like, Brian Asamoah comes in for Jordan Hicks, right? Or Eric Kendricks. Although Kendricks got mad a little bit, I just brought up the idea of, hey, are you comfortable taking a series or 2 off with this plan of Kevin O'Connell? And he snapped back at me and said, hey, I missed practice time last week. So he was alluding to the idea of, hey, if I didn't miss practice time last week, I wasn't coming out. But like, I remember Kendricks missing some practice time during the Zimmer era. Not like Zim was taking him off the field, right? So he has missed practice time before, then played in full on Sunday. Yeah. So to me, it looks like this plan, right? And Harrison Smith has told me that he doesn't necessarily agree with it, but he understands it. He's not going to fight Kevin on it. But, Harrison doesn't want to come out. But the idea of Josh Metellus coming in for Harrison Smith for a series or 2 to give Harrison, 10 to 12 snaps off. Well, same idea at linebacker, maybe more so at Hicks. I get that. It's not, more so with Kendricks. It's more so with Hicks. But we may see Kendricks on the sideline for a series or 2. Certainly if the Vikings are in a position where they're the number 2 seed locked in, that game in Chicago, yes, I think we'll see Eric Kendricks on the sideline plenty, but yeah, I mean, I think it could be a situation where maybe Cam gets a series or 2, yes, active, maybe contributing a little bit on special teams just to, get his legs underneath him. But yeah, I fully anticipate seeing Duke Shelley plenty on the field on Sunday.
Bonus scoop on Tuesday, my man, you came on this show and dropped some Wolves bombs, some things behind the scenes, some reckless speculation. It was fantastic. Since then, they've lost 2 more games. They lost to the Heat, and then they lost on Wednesday night to the Pelicans. And let's start with where you took us from the end of the Heat game, which was Gobert didn't play. Like Gobert, who's you mortgaged your future for, couldn't even get on the court at the end of that game. Wednesday against the Pelicans, I believe he had like 10 points again, and again was not really a factor or what was expected here. When does this begin to turn? Like, when does this begin to, sort itself out, as far as what, not just his role is, but I mean, a consistent production, because we've seen him go through spurts where he's played better. And I think we all think, okay, now it's sort of fixed. But now we've seen steps back and Cat's not there. So it's not a Cat problem.
Well, I mean, it sounds like, Judd, in this back and forth, it has turned with you. Now, I will say, so yeah, we spoke on Tuesday. They played in Miami on Monday night. So we had the Miami game to review on Tuesday. So now we're speaking here on Thursday morning. We have the New Orleans game to review from Wednesday night. Gobert was significantly better on Wednesday night in New Orleans, Judd. Now, some dumb fouls, but 4 blocked shots. Finally, Rudy, you're blocking some shots. Thank you. Some of the passes he made, some of the finishes he had, he was way more active, way more engaged. That was a good Rudy Gobert game on Wednesday night. I was very encouraged considering what we saw Monday in Miami. You're right. I mean, he was benched. There's no other way to spin it. He was benched for the final few minutes of that competitive game, that close game that was there for the taking. But sure, like, the trade has been a disaster. There's no other way to spin that. Right now, I still say the final chapter hasn't been written. But, like, as we sit here on Thursday morning, Judd, they are over a game out of the play-in, right? Yeah. They need to win a couple games, have some others lose some games just to be the 10 seed. They're not even the 10 seed right now. We are darn close to the halfway point of the season, which I get. A lot of things can happen with over a half of the season left. But I don't think anybody in their wildest imagination could have foreseen it going like this through the first 36 games. And the injuries stink. But, hey, guess what? You don't think New Orleans last night would have loved to have Brandon Ingram, Herb Jones? I mean, on a nightly basis, teams are missing guys. Now, I get it. Yep. The Wolves are missing 4 guys that would be in their rotation. But, hey, New Orleans was missing 2 starters last night. The Wolves were missing 1 starter in Cat, right? Kyle Anderson off the bench, Jordan McLaughlin off the bench, Taurean Prince off the bench. Towns is still, at best, several weeks away. On Jordan McLaughlin, Chris Finch said pregame on Wednesday, he'll be reevaluated in a week. My hunch, maybe it fits the reckless speculation Thursday theme, whatever, but my hunch is we are not going to see Jordan McLaughlin for a while. You know who misses Jordan McLaughlin a lot? Rudy Gobert. You know, Rudy also misses Kyle Anderson. He's better with those 2 guys on the floor. So I can defend Rudy to some extent. But like we said it in the moment in the summer, Judd, like it was the easiest yes ever for Danny Ainge of the Jazz. Like he didn't need to think twice, even though he really wanted Jaden McDaniels. Jaden McDaniels, by the way, last night was off the charts good. I love that kid. Love his game. One night he's guarding Steph Curry. The next night he's trying to guard Zion Williamson. He weighs 100 pounds less than Zion Williamson, and he tried. Like he wasn't embarrassed by Zion. Now Zion went off in the fourth quarter, right? Scoring 14 consecutive points at one point. 33 of his 43 came in the second half. But Jaden, especially in the first half, was not, embarrassing himself trying to guard Zion Williamson. But yeah, I mean, the Gobert trade has been a disaster. It just has. And so, yeah, I mean, it was more reckless speculation. Although this is fact. I can just tell you from multiple sources reporting Chicago and Toronto had trade interest in Gobert in the summer. The Wolves clearly trumped whatever those teams were willing to offer Utah. Gobert ultimately ends up here. But the Bulls and Raptors, 2 teams going south this year. 2 teams that a lot of people are asking questions about in the Eastern Conference. So I merely tossed out, hey, if you're Tim, would you be proactive, Tim Connolly, and call up Chicago, call up Toronto, just to gauge whether there still is interest? Tim is not doing that. I was opining about that. That was not any sort of reporting. I'm glad the aggregators didn't jump on that because it is nothing that I'm reporting. Tim Connolly is not in a position where he is calling up teams, asking them if they have trade interest in Rudy Gobert. I merely tossed it out as a talker because I knew that those 2 teams had some interest in the summer.
Dukes, I saw a lot of still moral victories for the Wolves last night because it was a hard-fought game against Pels with Zion coming back, having a monster game. I guess there's 2 ways to kind of look at this. Yes, they're a game out of the play-in. They're also 3 games out of the 6th seed, which Sacramento currently occupies. So they're obviously not buried here. It's not like the like to your point, the final chapter has not been written. But if they don't start stringing together some type of wins here soon, all of a sudden the gap between the 11 and 6 seed is going to be so gigantic that the play-in is going to be their only saving grace to even get into the playoffs for a team that had aspirations of being an above play-in basketball team this year.
Declan, pull up the schedule for the next 3 weeks if you can. Look at that schedule. These games that Cat for sure is going to miss. You can't convince me. I said this on Tuesday. I'll continue to say it. You can't convince me that the Wolves are better off without Cat. They need Cat on the floor. Cat is going to miss several more weeks. If you look at the schedule for the next 3 weeks, where exactly is that string of wins coming? All right, so Detroit is here this weekend. Okay, you can win that game, but you're in Milwaukee on Friday night. Don't know if Chris Middleton will play or not, but that's clearly a tricky game on Friday. My guy Ryan Saunders, the Denver Nuggets, will be here on Monday. That will be a tricky game. Just look at the schedule into January. Find me where they are stringing together, 4 consecutive wins or wins in 8 of 10 games. Do you have the schedule there, Declan? Can you read the schedule for the next 3 weeks?
Yeah, so after the Nuggets are here on January 2nd, to your point, they are home against the Trailblazers on Wednesday. They are home against the Clippers that following Friday. They then go on the road at Houston. That's a winnable game. At Detroit on Wednesday, iffy game. Home against Phoenix, iffy game. Home against the Cavs, iffy game. Home against the Jazz, hopefully should win. And then closing out the month at Denver against home against Toronto, home against Houston, road against Houston. So between, I would say, now and January 19th, you are playing some of the best in the NBA.
Well, yeah, and you should win at Detroit, right? You should win the 2 Detroit games.
Yeah.
You should win the 3 Houston games. But my point still stands. Like, maybe they can string together 3 consecutive wins, but where are the 4 or 5 consecutive wins? Where is the run of 8 out of 10, 9 out of 12? It's hard to see it with that schedule the next few weeks. Now, Kyle Anderson hopefully is back by Friday. They certainly miss him, but that back, like we've seen it, like they thought he'd be back last night. Back spasms, incredibly tricky, right? So that could be something that ails him for a while here, but he should be back. Taurean Prince, I'm telling you, they thought he'd be back already. So there's cause for concern there, but my sense is he's closer than the other 2 guys. I would like to see this full roster at some point sustain over the course of many, many games, see what they can do. But unfortunately, that's just not going to happen anytime soon. By the way, when's the last time the Wolves won a game with Rudy Gobert in the lineup? So they lost on Monday. They lost on Wednesday. He missed some games that they won, so they won without him.
Yeah,
When's the last time? Somebody looked that up. When's the last time the Wolves won a game? Yeah, it's been a while.
He and Kyle were playing. That's when they had a chemistry, and I think that might be the last time. But here's the problem too: is like we're now going through a schedule trying to find cream puff teams for them to beat. This was never supposed to be about that. This was supposed to be about going head to head with the best of the best and having a chance. You're going to go play the Bucks. You know what? Bring the Bucks on. This team's good. So like this whole conversation is really pathetic because we are literally trying to find the cream puffs that they can beat. And this team was built to win 50 plus games and make a playoff run as a team that could contend against, if not everyone in the league, just about damn near, right? So like think about how we're backing into this now too. And I know Cat's out, but Dukes, to your point, guys get hurt, and you got Gobert in part because of that. If Cat couldn't play, Gobert can play. So it really, it has taken a Wolves-like turn as far as where we thought we would be. And probably with how this team has operated in the past, shame on us. I guess we shouldn't be shocked, but it is, it's disheartening for basketball fans.
Well, incredibly disheartening. I thought they would go over the Vegas preseason over-under total of 48.5 wins. I thought they would get to 50. I thought they'd be 50-32. No chance they're getting to 50 wins. I'm not even sure there's a chance they get to the 46 wins that they won last year. The preseason goal was top 4 in the Western Conference, was home court advantage in the first round. Even though, Declan, as you said, they're 3 games out of 6th? So what are they out of 4th? 4 games, 5 games? It's still pretty tight. Like, too many teams to jump. Like, no, not with that schedule, with the injuries, just the way they've been playing, lack of effort. Like on Monday, like we see that too often. They're not jumping up that high. They may very well be in the play-in again. How disappointing would that be? I'll continue to say, as long as D'Angelo Russell is playing as much as he's playing, has the ball as often as he does. Now, Anthony Edwards has been brilliant. He's truly the lead guard. But when D'Angelo is playing the minutes he's playing, and he's made shots at a far better clip the last few weeks than he had earlier in the season. So from a shot-making standpoint, he's been fine. But I think about, to me, the most troubling play last night, well, there were many. Like, I don't know how Austin Rivers was called for that foul on CJ McCollum, kicking his leg out. At one point, Zion nailed Gobert in the face. It wasn't called, but the most troubling play to me was something I put on my Twitter. Jace Frederick of the Pioneer Press tweeted the video. I retweeted him. It was worth seeing that Marshall takes a shot with 7, 8, 9 seconds left. Long rebound. D'Angelo Russell made zero effort to block out his guy. If he does, he might have been able to secure that rebound. Yeah. What happens? New Orleans gets the offensive rebound, ends up getting to the free throw line, right? Like, come on, D'Angelo. He had that turnover too, in the second half where Zion might have gotten away with, some physicality, a little elbow there, but Zion ends up down on the other end with a dunk. There's too many of those plays on a per game basis, right? So I still wonder, and hey, it's a fair conversation to have, because if Tim Connolly wanted to extend D'Angelo Russell, he would have by now. So who is this team's point guard next year? That is a fair conversation to have.
Where does Ant factor in to that?
Well, I mean, Ant has to be the
alpha. I know he's not
a point guard. Yeah, well,
right.
Yeah, he's not.
But I mean, where does Ant?
Yeah, I mean, Ant has been phenomenal. Some of those finishes at the rim last night, Ant still needs to work on his shot selection to some extent, but some of those finishes, he had one where he went reverse. That dunk he had, I mean, Ant was so good. I just hate when he settles for those long 2-point shots, but when he attacks the rim, he has been phenomenal. I hope he ends up in the All-Star game. He absolutely deserves to be in the All-Star game this season. For this team truly to have like an elite chance, to me, he needs to be the clear-cut alpha. Hopefully when Cat comes back, Cat can accept that this needs to be Ant's team, not anybody else's team.
You and Phil, man. You and Phil. Cat ain't accepting that. It'd be nice if you're right, but he ain't accepting that.
Cat is who he is. I understand.
Exactly.
I do.
Exactly right. Hey, last thing. Who won our lunch from the Vikings Giants game?
Well, you know what? I didn't see the numbers. Good question. I should know, right? Here's the problem, Judd. I make far too many lunch bets. I made a lunch bet with a guy last night who thinks Chris Finch is going to be fired before the All-Star break. I don't foresee that because I don't think Glenn Taylor's eating the money on Chris Finch's contract.
No
Glenn is still the majority owner. Now, maybe it happens in the spring after the season. And I get it. At some point, you keep playing like this, there has to be some sort of fall guy, right? Something needs to take place. So I'm not dismissing the notion of a Chris Finch firing at some point, but like sometime in the next 4 or 5 weeks, that would absolutely surprise me based on the extension he signed in the spring. But I make so many dang bets, Judd. I can't keep track of them all. So I think I won. I don't think.
Okay, and where would that lunch be? Where do I have to take you? That's the most important point now. Where?
I mean, we'll go somewhere in your hood. I have no problem with that. We don't live that far from each other, but I'll come your way. We have to go to the Park Tavern.
That's exactly right. And that's what I keep saying. Sports Dad Sports Bar. Like, I am more than happy to pay you or to buy you lunch, but it's got to be in my neck of the woods, and that is Park Tavern, SLP. And I'm going to tell you right now, folks, if you're looking to put together a group party or something like that, guess what? Park Tavern again. If you're going to watch the game and sit at the bar, big bar, or go bowling, Park Tavern. Parktavern.net. Book your group there or call them 952-929-6810. Parktavern.net. Perhaps you will see Dukes and I enjoying a beer, enjoying lunch, and me paying for it. And because it's my friends at Park Tavern, I am more than happy to pay you, Doogie.
Good spot on Saturday night, New Year's Eve. All sorts of bowling options, entertainment options, the college football semifinals. Hey, the Wolves Pistons game. So yeah, I mean, a lot to watch, a lot to do at Park Tavern on Saturday night for New Year's Eve.
Great stuff, Dukes. Thank you very much.
All right, boys, take it easy. Happy New Year. Okay,
same to you.
By the way, Judd, you can also you can watch or listen to some St. Thomas women's basketball versus South Dakota, either obviously right here on 1500 AM SKOR North, or you can go get some tickets when they host South Dakota as well on Thursday night. Plenty of options for St. Thomas women's hoops, men's hoops, the men's hockey team as well. Enrico Blase, the former Miami, Ohio coach from back at my NCHC days, one of the best quotes around for college hockey guys. Plenty of options at St. Thomas. Go to TommySports.com to book all sorts of tickets or catch the action, of course, right here on 1500 AM ESPN or on SKOR North, wherever you get your signal. That's it for us here, I think, Judd, on Mackie and Judd with these scoops.
No Phil today.
No Phil. Yeah, he sent me a Kenny G video. He just said, dude. And it was, because it's Pacific time. It was like midnight my time. I get a buzz on my phone.
Yeah,
Usually I get an evening Judd. I was like,
get it.
I got a video notification. I thought, is Judd sending me an evening Judd at 12 a.m.? No, it was Phil with Kenny G as close as I am to the microphone playing his little saxophone. And then not to turn this completely into a Kenny G episode, this now spun me down into a wormhole, Judd. Do you know Kenny G is one of the best golfers, non-professionals in the world? He was a plus 0.5 handicap at one point and has won 2 different pro-ams in his career.
Kenny G?
Kenny G.
I didn't even know he golfed, much less was a great golfer.
The Ringer did a big post on him last year.
Awesome.
He can drive the ball 225 yards. Judd, he weighs less than me.
I was going to say, with that frame, he's a tiny dude.
He weighs less than me. So that gives me hope. I can maybe hit some missiles.
Well, you know what that means, Dex? That means that the golf swing has nothing to do with weight. It doesn't have to. It has to do with the fundamentals. And it has to do, see, like, you got a chance.
I need Pete Mackey. Pete Mackey, give me some mechanics here. We'll see.
You don't want Pete Mackey.
No, I don't.
You want Wes Johnson. You don't want Pete Mackey. He looks like he's scared to go to the mound. Anyway, okay. So we are back. We are back on Sunday, though, post-game, Packers-Vikes vent line, taking your thoughts. Hopefully it's a win, and hopefully the Packers are basically done then. But yes, we will be still active as we always are.
Hit the subscribe button. Daily Minnesota Sports Entertainment and on Purple Daily. We'll be back this week.